As the king watches in awe that Prince Arel, who is incapable of martial arts, is now holding onto a sword he gifted, he contemplates a thought, but before he can finish, Arel's grip on the sword falters. The mighty weapon overpowered him, causing him to tumble to the ground. Shrieks of concern echoed throughout the room. Lying on the floor, Arel bitterly reflected that he'd said it before. He didn't want to die by a sword. To the world, Arel was already exceptional in many areas. If he also mastered swordsmanship, he feared he'd be dragged into the kingdom's power struggles. He had gone to great lengths to maintain his image as the weaker younger brother, even while training in secret. He couldn't let his efforts go to waste. Most importantly, he had to decide how much he wanted to involve himself in these conflicts. As Arel regained his footing, he thanked the king for such an extraordinary gift. However, he confessed that his swordsmanship skills were still in their infancy. He suggested that his sister, Kania, was more deserving of such a sword. This revelation left Princess Kania in shock. Arel wondered why she was suddenly surprised. Kania was progressing at an astonishing rate and had already reached the rank of an aura practitioner. This achievement alone was enough to earn her elite status in the kingdom. Although he, as a pro, understood that Kania had a long way to go, he believed it was only a matter of time before she reached the level of an aura expert, a rank held by only 30 people in the kingdom. This fact would leave every knight in awe. Therefore, he believed she was the rightful owner of the sword. With that, Prince Arel handed the sword to Princess Kania. Witnessing this exchange, the king steps forward with a mischievous glint in his eyes. He expresses understanding of Prince Arel's sentiment, but insists there must be a condition. He challenges Kania to prove her swordsmanship and whether it is worthy of such a weapon. Taken aback by the king's request, Kania wears a look of shock, mirroring Arel's dumbfounded expression. What on earth is the king thinking? Arel wonders, quickly realizing that his father's macho tendencies are at play. The king prompts Kania to demonstrate her sword skills by taking a swing at him, reassuring her that she has nothing to fear. Kania, though flustered, tentatively agrees. Arel observes her state, understanding it to be a natural reaction. He gives her a supportive pat on the back, encouraging her to seize this opportunity to showcase her progress. Inwardly, he hopes Kania will give the muscle-obsessed king a run for his money, even going so far as to flash 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. With Prince Arel's backing, Princess Kania musters the fighting spirit to accept the king's challenge. As Princess Kania and the king face off, swords drawn, and stances prepared, the room fills with suspense. The king, with a fierce gaze, observes that Kania's stance differs from that of the kingdom's knights and inquires if it's her own creation. Arel, watching from the sidelines, marvels at how the king could discern Kania's uniqueness from her stance alone. With newfound determination, Kania raises her sword, ready to spar with the king. As she prepares herself, she calls out, "Please guide me, father!" Princess Kania initiates the attack, channeling mana into her body and sword, creating a potent gust of wind. Lady Livana, startled by the unexpected display, shields herself, while Prince Arel watches with a pleased grin. He thinks to himself, noting that Kania's exceptional strength and high mana output has granted her a speed invisible to the untrained eye. As Kania charges toward the king, Arel wears a worried look, questioning the normalcy of aiming for someone's head for a first attack. The king's joyous expression, as the sword nears his face, prompts Arel to wonder if there's something inherently terrifying about this father-daughter pair. Just then, their swords meet with a resounding clash, and an immense wave of energy radiates from the point of impact. Kania, surprised by the sudden counterattack, realizes only at the last second that the king has raised his sword. The king praises her, acknowledging the weight behind her attack as she is sent sprawling on the floor. He reveals that not even the leader of the knights could summon that much aura in a duel, expressing his delight at Kania's ability. As Kania picks herself up from the floor, nursing her arm from the recoil of the attack, she humbly admits she still has much to learn. The king then turns his attention to Arel, asking if he was indeed the one who trained Kanya. Arel, with a pleased grin, confirms that it was indeed him. He downplays his involvement, attributing her progress to the success of his theoretical approach. He explains that traditional swordsmanship didn't suit Kanya, but she showed a natural affinity for Aura. He merely offered her some guidance. Upon hearing this, the king asks if it's possible to teach this method to others. Arel, realizing the king's ulterior motive, is slightly annoyed. He suspects the king envisions an army of Aura expert knights, unmatched by any other country. However, Arel believes this isn't feasible. Respectfully, Prince Arel declines the king theory, explaining that it would be challenging to replicate Kanya's results. Her innate potential, and the time they spent together from a young age, allowed him to analyze and tailor training to her every move, which contributed to her rapid growth. Thus, he suggests that mass production of Aura experts might not be achievable. The king sighs, seemingly conceding defeat, while Prince Arel contemplates his next move. Although he could, in theory, devise a training plan to suit the knights just by observing them, but he quickly dismisses the idea. The thought of spending his days studying sweaty muscles is far from appealing, not to mention the sheer amount of work involved. Still, he doesn't want to leave the king completely without hope. He reassures the king that it might be possible to improve the knight's abilities, if not promote rapid growth, by providing them with appropriate training methods. However, he specifies that this offer is only for members of the royal family. Understanding the implications, the king agrees, recognizing the benefits this might bring to his lineage. Arel is pleased to see the king's understanding, since there's no need to strengthen the other nobles, who are like hyenas to the king and could potentially cause more trouble. The king firmly agrees to Arel's conditions, promising to share the secret method only within the royal family, and with that Prince Arel can't help but smile at the thought of his training technique being passed down through generations of royalty. It's as if his personal diary is becoming a national treasure. His humble smile soon morphs into a greedy grin. He knows the knights will have to endure intense training for this transformation, but they will need to persevere. Several months later, a loud crash echoes through the palace corridors, startling passing maids. Inside a training room, the king stands amidst the rubble and dust, drenched in sweat. He wipes his sweat and reflects on his progress. He's finally reaching the level of a peak expert. The training method, surprised by the fact it is coming from Arel, who can't use it due to his frail body, is working. In fact, the king muses, it is Arel who needs this training method more than anyone. Resolved, the king decides to take action to provide Prince Arel with some help. Meanwhile, in the garden of the concubine's castle, Prince Arel is contentedly munching on a plateful of cookies, while Princess Kanya sips her tea. Just then, they learn an exclusive knight is coming. The servant reaffirms that these would indeed be Arel's personal, exclusive knights as he places a stack of applications on the table, noting that many talented knights, personally selected by the king himself, have volunteered for the role. Arel, a cookie in hand, peruses the documents, noting that these are children from prestigious households, who, a few years prior, wouldn't have given him the time of day. With a self-satisfied smirk, he leans back in his chair, popping another cookie into his mouth. It was only natural, he muses, that he'd gained such attention now that he's found success. However, he knows that he doesn't need guards, since his skills are unrivaled. As he continues munching, he considers his future. He has no plans to flaunt his abilities, especially after the previous incident where Kanya's life was endangered. Picking up a few applications, Arel questions the servant about whether it's true that he could have a maximum of 3 exclusive knights. The servant replies with gleeful enthusiasm that the king mentioned he could have as many knights as he wanted. Arel, slightly taken aback, assures him that he doesn't need quite that many. He resumes browsing the applications, finding the role of an interviewer rather agreeable. He resolves to consider all relevant factors, skills, personalities, and so on to make a fair decision. As he delves deeper into his decision-making process, he begins to mumble to himself, contemplating his preferences. He doesn't want someone overly muscular, he muses, but rather a more feminine figure. Essentially, he wants eye candy. As Arel's thoughts wander, those around him exchange confused glances, wondering what's happening. Suddenly, Arel produces a pair of glasses from seemingly nowhere, positions them on his face, and brandishes a quill with a flourish. With a dramatic declaration, he announces the commencement of the interviews. Several weeks later, the knights assembled for the interviews, and we see Prince Arel breaking into a cold sweat, surveying the array of candidates he's selected. As he nervously greets them, their unified response overwhelms him. "Greetings, Your Highness!" To his dismay, the female candidates, despite their outstanding knightly qualifications, are far more muscular than he had envisioned, causing his utopian dream to shatter. Just then, one of the knights notices his discomfort and inquires about his well-being. Arel assures them he's fine, despite his internal turmoil. Feeling somewhat defeated, Arel reminds himself that he can't express his dissatisfaction. After all, these knights are exceptional, having trained ceaselessly. He needs to put his personal preferences aside, so with renewed resolve, he announces the start of the interviews. As each knight explains their motivation for volunteering, Arel can't help but be taken aback by their strength, particularly one muscular woman whose presence rivals that of a wild berserker. He realizes that if he chose her, his safety would be guaranteed. Another knight, emanating an aura of noble grace, stands out among the rest due to her distinct demeanor. The interviews progress smoothly, with each candidate answering Arel's questions without difficulty. He asks them to wait outside while he deliberates. With the knights out of the room, Arel acknowledges that, despite this being a formality, he can't conclude the process without selecting someone. So he begins his preparations. Drawing mana from the air, Arel activates the Origin Creation Qigong technique, the 6 divine abilities. This secret technique stimulates his brain to access abilities that are normally dormant. It's an ability typically attained by a Taoist immortal who has undergone extensive training, but for a former pro like Arel, it's as easy as a walk in the park. Invigorated by his newfound clairvoyance, Prince Arel proceeds with the second stage of the interviews. Each knight is called in one by one, and through his enhanced perception, Arel can discern their true intentions. As each candidate steps into the room, he sees right through them, subsequently dismissing one after another. With his all-seeing ability, Arel can perceive the true essence of the knights' minds and emotions. He can't hear their hearts, but he can see the color of their souls. Though he doubts any of the knights are assassins, the possibility of spies is not lost on him. Hence, he knows he must choose carefully. Suddenly, the next knight enters, and Arel is struck by the clarity and brilliance of her soul. The knight introduces herself as Asha Pernil, an undeniably talented knight, but her background appears humble, leading Arel to suspect there might be more to her story. Excited, he notes that he may have found a diamond in the rough and decides that, as long as her secret doesn't affect him, she could be a good choice. Other than Asha, no other knight has caught Arel's attention so far. He knows he should pick at least 2, and his mind briefly flits back to the berserker woman. Just as he's contemplating, the final knight, Sena Girl, introduces herself. She is a cheerful and carefree girl with a clear soul as well, and Arel notices that she seems very sociable. Her record shows that she has served in various knight orders across the kingdom, from the border to distant fiefdoms. When asked, Sena admits she has personal reasons for her extensive travels. Arel wonders if she's a problem child, but as he studies her, he doesn't notice any significant changes in her emotional color. It doesn't seem like she has committed any crimes. And with that, the interview concludes, and Prince Arel announces the successful candidates, Asha and Sena. With their addition, The total number of inhabitants of the concubine castle increases. Prince Aurel quickly observes that Sena, despite her light-hearted demeanor during the interview, is quite serious when it comes to her duties. On the other hand, Asha behaves exactly as he expected. Wanting to evaluate their skills, Prince Aurel brings the two new knights to a remote area. Both are surprised when he explains that he'd like to see their abilities firsthand. Aurel knows that even though they are his knights in name only, it would be a problem if they remained aura practitioners. Hence, he needs to chart their skills and help them grow stronger. Asha agrees to demonstrate her abilities, but wonders how they should proceed. With childlike innocence, Prince Aurel suggests they fight each other. Sena and Asha agree to spar on their first day, seeing no harm in the idea. However, in Aurel's mind, he can't wait to witness a clash between two individuals of similar skills, showcasing their strengths without any reservation. Giggling about his ingenious plan, Aurel playfully asks his knights who among them is the stronger one. This sparks their competitive spirit, and sensing an opportunity, Sena glances over at Asha and confesses she's curious about who is the more skilled knight. With the tension between them ignited, Prince Aurel, donning 3D glasses, eagerly awaits the upcoming duel between these two prideful knights. In his excitement, he wishes he had popcorn to accompany what is sure to be an entertaining fight. As Asha and Sena limber up in preparation for their sparring match, they turn to Prince Aurel for guidance on whether there should be any rules. But as he nonchalantly munches on popcorn, he advises them that their main focus should be to avoid getting hurt. As both knights unleash their auras, Sena taunts Asha, saying she'll go easy on her since Prince Aurel insisted they be careful, and starts boasting about her practical experience. Asha responds confidently, assuring Sena that she doesn't need to hold back since she's confident in her own skills. The atmosphere between the two knights grows heavy, and it seems as though they might seriously fight instead of just sparring. Prince Aurel reminds them not to take it too far, and says the fight will start when he claps his hands. But before he can give the signal, the knights clash with each other, causing Prince Aurel's seat to be thrown off the arena. Picking himself up and looking disheveled, Prince Aurel thinks he did tell them to take it easy. However, he understands their desire to show off their strength. As the fight takes off, Prince Aurel observes the duel keenly and begins to analyze their skills, noting that their bodies are already in excellent condition. Asha executes a mighty spear thrust, a move that could leave Sena vulnerable if mishandled. Sena, however, stands resolute, and Prince Aurel observes that she activated her aura within her eyes, allowing her to skillfully dodge the attack and counter the spear's path. Aurel notes that she relied on her sight rather than her senses to predict the attack, likening her instincts to a wild beast's. After dodging, Sena spots a window of opportunity to land a powerful punch on Asha's torso. Aurel acknowledges the inherent drawback of spears, the wielder's vulnerability when an adversary closes in, and wonders how Asha will respond. To his astonishment, Asha delivers a swift kick that sends Sena skirting backward. Sena teases Asha for incorporating a kick into her spear work, but Asha dismisses the jab, asserting that there's no rule forbidding it. As Aurel spectates their intense combat, he takes note of their escalating aura of power, suspecting that their competitive spirit won't allow them to cease until blood is drawn. Deciding to intervene, Aurel halts the match and approaches the knights, expressing his grasp of their abilities and pointing out their areas for improvement. This leaves Asha and Sena puzzled. Aurel elaborates, saying that Asha's focus on speed makes her impatient, while Sena's reliance on close combat seems timid. Asha interjects, realizing that Aurel was the one who guided the second princess, Kania. She deduces that their display was to receive similar guidance. Aurel, surprised by Kania being mentioned, considers that Kania must have gained prestige after becoming an aura expert. He confirms Asha's suspicion, asserting that as his guards, they need to become stronger. He inquires if they feel otherwise, to which both Asha and Sena bashfully admit that they don't want to be a burden to him. Aurel responds nonchalantly, arguing that he won't lose anything by guiding his own guards. He then promptly initiates Aurel's exclusive night special training plan. Sena remarks that their current location seems a bit cramped for training, but Prince Aurel assures her that they aren't there for physical training. Instead, he plans to provide lectures on theoretical aspects. He suddenly pulls out a secret manual titled, Introduction to Anyone Can Become a Knight, a pioneering guide that he plans to sell to other knights if it proves effective. However, after a few hours, both Sena and Asha are left bewildered. Asha struggles to grasp the concept of circulating mana throughout her body to enhance her aura, while Sena finds the entire material incomprehensible. This feedback leads Aurel to conclude that his guide isn't ready for public consumption yet. Regardless, Aurel didn't expect the two knights to comprehend the complex material right away, so he begins his lecture. He explains that the amount of mana a person can store varies, because the knight's mana paths are currently blocked. He warns them that recklessly exerting their strength to emit aura is akin to drawing water from a barrel with a fire hose. Not only is it incredibly wasteful but also perilous. If they forcefully open their circulation paths without proper control, disastrous consequences could occur. He dramatically slams the board and warns them of falling into a state of chi deviation, which he simplifies as becoming half a corpse, causing both knights to tremble with fear. To quell their worries, Aurel counsels them on the importance of learning to naturally assimilate and retain significant quantities of aura within their bodies. He highlights the need to do this in their daily routines, emphasizing the efficient circulation of this stored energy. Aurel guarantees that mastering this technique will revolutionize their use of aura. This explanation seems to resonate with Sena and Asha, as they nod with understanding. With that, Prince Aurel proceeds to the next topic, tailoring the theory and class to suit each of his knight's unique strengths. Aurel's Special Training Plan Chapter 2. Prince Aurel begins with Sena, advising her to focus more on her aura manipulation. Sena retorts, claiming her current aura usage is satisfactory, prompting Aurel to challenge her to concentrate her aura on her other arm and both legs simultaneously. Struggling with the task, Sena demonstrates her limitation. She can only concentrate her aura in one place at a time. It's not that she can't envelop her entire body with aura, it's just that she instinctively directs it to areas of immediate need, leading to rapid aura depletion. Exhausted and frustrated, Sena collapses, admitting her inability to maintain simultaneous aura flow while keeping her senses alert. Seeing her struggle, Prince Aurel decides to intervene. He approaches Sena and holds her hands, explaining that focusing on the difference in body temperature could help her concentrate her senses on her palms, a trick to help her control her aura better. Gradually, Sena begins to sense the aura flow, and to Prince Aurel's delight, a vibrant red aura illuminates both her hands. Sena, grateful for his guidance, compliments the prince on his soft hands, clasping them eagerly like a famished bear. Caught off guard by her behavior, Prince Aurel gently reprimands her, insisting she focuses on the training. After some time, Sena masters the technique, her face glowing with the thrill of her newfound skill. However, Prince Aurel senses something amiss and briefly wonders if he might have made an error in his teaching. Yet, he dismisses his doubts, satisfied with the results of the training session. Aurel's Special Training Plan Chapter 3. Next in line for training is Asha. Prince Aurel notes her impatience during the previous sparring match. He criticizes her decision to kick Sena blindly, expecting her to respond with a hand-to-hand combat technique, despite Sena being more proficient in that area. He emphasizes that calmness is paramount in spearmanship, and she must rid herself of impatience. Questioning the method of her training, Asha asks if carrying Prince Aurel on her back is meant to instill patience. Confirming her guess, he instructs her to concentrate until the burden of his weight dissipates, urging her to remain calm and focused. Feeling somewhat defeated, Asha acquiesces to his method. In another castle, far removed from the training grounds, we see the queen in contemplation. She reviews a note delivered by a mysterious figure, her eyes scanning the message, which speaks of Prince Arel's latest ventures. Initially, she dismissed him as inconsequential as a gnat's offspring, but his actions have begun to pique her attention. With a flicker of annoyance, she feeds the note to the dancing flames of a nearby candle, watching as the paper chars and crumbles in her grasp. A realization washes over her, a resolute decision hardening in her eyes. She must address the issue of Prince Arel herself. Within the verdant expanse of the concubine's castle forest, Asha relentlessly presses on with her training. Demonstrating her newfound might, she sends a tree splintering apart with one swift move. Under Prince Arel's guidance, she feels her strength surging. Despite the intensity of the training, she contemplates whether she's truly worthy of the prince's focused guidance. The story then delves into Asha Purnell's past, revealing her origins as a noble from the now-defunct Purnell family. The Purnells, while not particularly wealthy, led a peaceful existence in the rural outskirts, a tranquility that was shattered when famine, brought on by monstrous invasions, laid waste to their world. As their home succumbed to flames and devastation, Asha recalls the heroic sacrifice of her father when he barricaded the door against the monster onslaught, urging his family to escape, entrusting young Asha with the future of their family, a responsibility that still weighs heavily on her. Time marched on, and the noble families that once shared cordial relations with the Purnells turned their backs on Asha. Left with no other choice, she enlisted herself in the ranks of the knights to sustain herself. Her innate martial prowess allowed her to awaken her aura swiftly, leading to her placement in the royal capital within the 15th Knight Order. This was the kingdom's lowest-ranked order, a motley crew of the least respected knights. The worst among them was their leader, an indolent, underachieving knight commander who had only achieved his rank due to his connections. Despite his age, he was merely an aura beginner. A sudden glimpse into an unsettling encounter between Asha and the knight commander unfolds, and his unwelcome advances, under the pretense of offering her special training and drawing eerie parallels between her and his daughter, left a sour taste in her mouth. Frustrated, she channels her anger into another powerful strike, crushing yet another tree. Feeling a sense of relief, Asha contemplates how satisfying it would be to vent her anger on the knight commander the next time they cross paths. She reflects on her initial desperation that led her to apply for the position of a guard, never imagining she would be accepted so readily. With this new opportunity, she could improve her family's living conditions. She just needed to save a little more to afford her brother's academy fees. As she considers all the good fortune that's come her way recently, she can't help but attribute it to Prince Arel. She makes a mental vow to repay his kindness, no matter what it takes. At the same time, we explore Seina's reasons for deciding to serve as a guard. Waking up at the crack of dawn, a servant commends her early rising habit. She modestly attributes this to her still getting used to her new responsibilities, ending the conversation on a positive note by thanking the servant and wishing him a pleasant day. Seina Geralt's roots are in a family of mercenaries. Growing up in a tribe that served no single country, they were wanderers, constantly on the move. One day, her father reveals to her that their way of life is changing. The last war with the Empire, 30 years prior, brought a period of peace that reduced their income, and he feared that mercenaries like them would soon have no role to play. He urges her to go out into the world, promising to handle the stubborn old men who cling to their mercenary ways, and believing it's time for the younger generation to forge a new path. The prospect of leaving her tribe didn't bother Seina, and she found the knight training quite within her capabilities. Yet she was caught off guard by the sudden and tragic end to her father's feud with a corrupt lord, as he met his untimely demise, naively believing he could reform entrenched traditions. The memory of a past incident with another knight, strikingly reminiscent of her naive father, invades her thoughts. In this memory, Seina courageously confronted the knight for unjustly labeling innocent villagers as bandits, probing his moral integrity, which caused her to beat him half to death. Upon reflection on this past episode, she realizes she is devoid of regret. Instead, a profound wave of relief engulfs her. Since then, Sena has found herself frequently assigned to perilous regions. Eventually, she chose to volunteer as an escort knight for Prince Aurel. Despite the hardships she faced, she feels oddly fortunate about her new role. Prince Aurel, albeit appearing idle at times, struck her as humble and unexpectedly charming. His hands, soft to the touch, stirred an unusual warmth within her. This feeling was new to her, and she treasured the kindness she had received from the prince, making a firm resolution to repay it somehow. With their respective resolutions firmly in place, Asha and Sena make their way back to Prince Aurel Ornesia. The prince might not shine in the realm of martial arts or magic, but he's demonstrated prodigious intellectual prowess. His innovative creations have significantly bolstered the kingdom's economy, and his theories have assisted the second princess in rapidly ascending to the status of an aura expert. These achievements have rightfully earned him the moniker, the Great Gray Sage. Elsewhere, the 13-year-old prince, Aurel, is seen luxuriating under a canopy, delighting in his refreshing ade, and celebrating his successful recent months of laziness. Within the castle's regal walls, the king is in a council with his retainers. They broach the subject of the upcoming 14th birthday and the coming-of-age ceremony of the third prince, Aurel Ornesia. Count Tempest, the first to voice his thoughts, suggests that the ceremony might provide an excellent opportunity for the multi-talented prince. The king echoes the term opportunity with an air of doubt and listens as the retainers ponder the availability of suitable estates to bestow upon Prince Aurel. The king questions if their intent is to assign Aurel his own territory. To his surprise, they unanimously agreed, confident that no objections would arise against such a proposal, causing him to hold in his rage, accusing them of conspiring to banish Aurel under the pretext of the coming-of-age ceremony. Just then, Count Tempest drops another bombshell. He states that Aurel's acclaim has spread beyond the lower classes and even reached foreign territories. He subtly suggests that the king might want to consider Aurel as a potential heir. This insinuation provokes the king into a furious response. His fist smashes onto the table, and his aura erupts, a testament to his unwavering resolve. He insists vehemently that the crown prince is the indisputable successor, and that Aurel has no ambition to claim the throne. However, Duke Gast interjects that rumors of Aurel's suitability for the throne are already widespread in other countries. Young noblemen are showing more support for the third prince than the crown prince, swaying public opinion. He warns the king of the potential fallout from this situation, leaving the king in troubled silence. As the retainers present a stack of appeals from concerned nobles, they express their desire for stability within the kingdom. He realizes that these requests, all advocating for Aurel to be sent far away, represent an ultimatum from the nobility. Begrudgingly, he agrees to consider their suggestions, and asks them to recommend suitable territories for Aurel. Back in his office, Prince Aurel opens a letter informing him of the outcome of the king's meeting. Understanding the noble's ploy to exile him under the pretense of granting him territory, he bursts into laughter. Excitedly, he exclaims that he now has his own territory. He dismisses any interest in the throne, seeing the nobles as latent threats, and firmly believes that having his own territory far surpasses the dubious honor of being encircled by such conniving figures. Overwhelmed with joy, he shouts his plans to settle down in his new territory and build a house, finally achieving a sense of independence and control. In the frigid realm of Fahelia in the north, where snow blankets the landscape all year round, one risks a frozen end with a careless visit. This is the land reserved as Prince Aurel's territory. Reading the description of his new land, Prince Aurel acknowledges the challenging farming conditions and discerns the ill intent of the nobles. With a resolute thud, he slams his book shut and announces his departure 1 month after his coming-of-age ceremony. He calculates that he has a year and a month to make the necessary preparations. As his retainers gather before him, hanging on his every word, he emphasizes the enormity of their task. Independence from other territories isn't a child's undertaking, and it's a challenge fit only for the resolute. He pledges to assist those unable to join him in finding other positions, while urging those who choose to stay to act swiftly, causing a unanimous agreement to echo through the room. As the servants disperse, Arel takes comfort in the knowledge that his alchemist team and most of his close associates will remain by his side. Meanwhile, Sena can't help but express her discontent at their destination, Fahelia. Intrigued, Prince Arel queries her concerns. Sena recounts her year-long deployment there, surprising Arel with yet another entry in her catalog of dangerous assignments. She narrates tales of extreme cold and peril, but also notes the relatively low monster population, suggesting it may not be as dangerous as it seems. Arel, however, interprets her effort to find positives as a sign of just how harsh Fahelia truly is. He empathizes with the scheming noble's decision to dispatch him to such a place. Yet he reassures them as he leans back on his chair, claiming the situation is better than he'd anticipated. This declaration sends waves of shock through his guards as he elaborates on the scenarios he had imagined, such as a land infested with ferocious monsters or a treacherous dragon's nest. Realizing that he will be residing in a cold but manageable territory, he expresses gratitude that it isn't as dire as he had feared, emphasizing that it's a manageable challenge. Lost in his thoughts, Prince Arel is unaware of the watchful eyes of his guards, their expressions brimming with concern. Even Sena's eyes well up with tears as she contemplates the challenges that lie ahead for the prince. In unison, they make a solemn vow to protect Prince Arel no matter what. However, Prince Arel misunderstands their intentions, believing there is a miscommunication between them. Later in the week, Asha and Sena stood guard outside Prince Arel's chambers. Asha broached a topic, urging Sena to be honest. However, Sena was confused about what Asha meant. Sensing her confusion, Asha clarified, reminding Sena of a previous conversation about the tundra, and a realization dawned on her. Sena noticed the chilling truth about Fahelia, a desolate tundra offering nothing but biting cold. The knights were stationed in Fahelia primarily to deter monsters incapable of withstanding the severe cold from venturing too far. Sena jokingly asked if Asha desired to remain at the castle, to which Asha responded with an annoyed look that she plans to follow Prince Arel, even if their destination is worse than Fahelia. Asha expressed her surprise at the noble's decision to exile the prince. However, Sena was more optimistic, assuring Asha that they shouldn't worry too much. She believed that once Asha looked into Prince Arel's eyes, she would see that he had a plan. Sena admitted she didn't fully comprehend it, but she could sense a lack of frustration in his eyes. With trust placed in the prince, they resolved to keep their families informed of their circumstances and planned to send letters home, ensuring their loved ones were updated on their situation. Inside his chambers, Prince Arel heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally completed the blueprint he had been working on. However, his thoughts turned to his mother, who was undoubtedly heartbroken about his impending departure. Pacing in circles, he pondered his next steps. He had already instructed the maid not to inform his mother about the circumstances of the territory, but he was still concerned about her safety and the looming threat, like the one that happened to Cania. Prince Arel considered how to create a means of communication, such as ultra-long-distance communication spheres, teleportation magic circles, or magic scrolls. He even contemplated hiring a dedicated magician. After weighing his options, he concluded that he needed to consider everything carefully. For the time being, he focused on the preparations for the impending journey towards that harsh territory, but the landscape seemed oddly appealing to him, an ideal haven for a former professional like himself to lead a tranquil existence. Arel's preparation for independence. Step 1. A group of magicians appeared before Prince Arel, ready to offer their assistance. Among them were Pian and his disciples, familiar faces that surprised the prince. After exchanging greetings, Aurel disclosed that he was about to share a secret with them. Pian solemnly pledged that whatever was revealed would remain confidential. Prince Aurel then unrolled a blueprint, explaining that they needed to create an item based on its design as quickly as possible. Pian, scrutinizing the plan, realized that this was no ordinary artifact. He looked at Aurel in surprise, questioning whether the prince had designed it himself or received it from someone else. Nonchalantly, Aurel confirmed that he had drawn the blueprint, an improved version of the brain-activating artifact known as the Sage's Necklace, which he'd previously gifted to Korea. Pian was astounded to learn that, according to the blueprint, this new design promised twice the effectiveness at 1/10 of the production cost and marveled at the young prince's innovative brilliance. Prince Aurel inquired if they could manufacture it, and Pénal was confident they could since the blueprint was flawless. All they needed were the materials. However, Pian, knowing the creator of the original artifact, was at a loss for words. Sensing his hesitation, Prince Aurel planned for this and revealed a sack of gold coins from a drawer. This fee, he explained, was for their silence about the project. Pian was unfazed, so Aurel unveiled another sack for materials and labor. Generously, he promised more gold for future transactions. At this grand display, the magician's composure crumbled, and they vowed to fulfill the prince's request. Aurel, pleased with their response, looked forward to their collaboration, expecting the completion of the project within a month. Little did they know of his boundless ambition. Aurel's belief was that money was the most effective way to command obedience. A few days later, the magicians returned, weary but successful, presenting their creation as the Grey Sage's Necklace, a title that Prince Aurel swiftly dismissed. Upon examining the necklace, he was pleasantly surprised by its quality and swift completion, so with the prototype approved, he instructed them to mass-produce the necklace. Misunderstanding his request for 50 more pieces as a mere 5, the magicians were stunned when he clarified the number. Despite their evident fatigue, Pian committed to fulfilling the order. As the disciples trudged away, Prince Aurel wore a smug smile. Reflecting on their plight, he mused about the harsh and often unfair nature of life. Yet, he thought, for someone like him, who had lived 100 lifetimes, the perspective was quite different. Aurel's preparation for independence. Step 2. A lone wagon traversed the night landscape, carrying Asha and Prince Aurel, as Aurel was busy munching on cookies. Asha questioned their destination, suggesting that he could have ordered whatever he needed. However, Prince Aurel insisted that this particular acquisition required a personal touch. When Asha verified that he wished to make a purchase in person, Prince Aurel revealed that they were headed to a slave market. As the words echoed in her mind, Asha was shocked. She swiftly cautioned the prince against the idea of buying slaves, interpreting it as a sign of an escalating power obsession. Prince Aurel, taken aback by her reaction, realized she had misunderstood his intentions, turning their carriage ride into a tumultuous affair.